Welcome to French Polynesia, pearl of the Pacific Ocean. Around 4000 before Christ, a great migration began from Southeast Asia across the open ocean. Some of them ended up in group settlements in the Pacific Islands. Around 1300 before Christ, Tonga and Samoa were settled. Around 200 before Christ, from these islands, some colonization voyages were launched towards the Marquesas Islands. Over the next centuries, other great migrations took place, aiming at colonizing all the Tahitian islands and almost the entire South Pacific. This area of the Pacific Ocean is now called the Polynesian Triangle and includes Hawaii to the north, Easter Island to the southeast, and New Zealand to the southwest. Polynesia is a sub-region of Oceania, made up of over 1,000 islands scattered over the central and southern Pacific Ocean. It forms a triangle which goes up to the Hawaiian Islands on the north, the Easter Island on the east, and New Zealand on the west. As a result of these migrations, it is commonly admitted that the native inhabitants of Hawaii and the Maoris of New Zealand all have common ancestors. On the other hand, they speak a similar language which is known as Maori. In the 1500s, the era of great explorations began when ships without outriggers arrived from different countries of Europe, aiming at discovering new land and claiming them for the benefit of their own empires. In 1521, Magellan spotted the atoll of Puka Puka in what is now the Tuamotu Atolls. In 1595, the Spanish explorer Mendaña visited Fatuhiva Island in the Marquesas. More than 170 years later, that is in 1767, Captain Samuel Wallis and the HMS Dolphin was the first to visit the island of Tahiti during his journey to discover Terra Australis Incognita, a mythical landmass below the equator thought to balance the northern hemisphere. Wallis named the island of Tahiti King George III Island and claimed it for England. Soon after, and unaware of Wallis's arrival, French navigator Louis-Antoine de Bougainville landed on the opposite side of Tahiti and claimed it for the King of France. European fascination with the islands grew with one major event, the mutiny of Captain William Bligh's crew aboard the HMS Bounty, who spread tales of tropical beauty and the warm nature of the Tahitian people in the news. Knowledge of Tahiti and the South Pacific continued to grow as Captain James Cook brought back thousands of illustrations of Tahitian flora and fauna, as well as the first map of the islands of the Pacific. In the 1800s, the arrival of whalers, British missionaries, and French military expeditions forever changed the way of life on Tahiti and created a French-British rivalry for control of the islands. The Pomare dynasty ruled Tahiti until 1847, when Queen Pomare finally accepted French protection of the islands of Tahiti and Moorea. In 1880, following the Queen's death, King Pomare V was persuaded to cede Tahiti and most of its dependencies to France. In 1957, all the islands of Tahiti were reconstituted as the overseas French territory called French Polynesia. In 1958, independentist Puvana O'Opa announced a plan to secede from France. In 1977, France granted Tahiti more freedom to calm down uprisings. After 1984, Tahiti gains more freedom from France but remains French. The Statute of Autonomy is implemented. In 1998, French Polynesia becomes an overseas country with greater self-governing powers through their own assembly and president. With these powers, the country is now negotiating international agreement with foreign states in matters of commerce and investment. Today, French Polynesia is an overseas collectivity of the French Republic. It is composed of 118 geographically dispersed islands and atolls. They stretch over a surface of more than 2,000 kilometers in the South Pacific Ocean. Its total land area is 4,167 square kilometers. It is made up of 5 archipelagos or groups of islands. The Society Islands, made of the Windward Islands and the Leeward Islands, the Tuamotu Archipelago, the Marquesas Islands, the Gambier Islands, and the Austral Islands. The most important among them are the Windward Islands. They include Tahiti, Moorea, Mehetia, Tetiaroa, and Maiau. Tetiaroa, which is owned by the famous actor Marlon Brando, and Maiau are atolls. This means that their ground floor is made up of coral. They are usually ring-shaped coral reef, including a coral rim that encircles a lagoon partially or completely. On the contrary, Tahiti, Moorea, and Mehetia are high islands. Their ground floor is made up of earth and they have mountains in the center. An island was formed from volcanic activity. It is first high and mountainous with surrounding coral reefs, then it gradually goes down into the water until it is completely overcome by the sea, and it becomes an atoll. Tahiti is the largest island and the economic, cultural, and political center of French Polynesia. The capital of the administrative district is Papeete. Most of the island's population and business is centered around that capital city. Here are some views of it. The majority of the population speak Tahitian, which is derived from the Maori, and French, the 2 official languages throughout French Polynesia. Because tourism is a major industry in their economy, most people in tourist locations speak English. Here are some common words in Tahitian. Yarana means hello, Maeva means welcome, Parahi or Nana means goodbye. E is for yes. Aita is for no. Marururoa is thank you very much. Tahitian was not written in any form, but was only transmitted orally for many years. This oral tradition involved the transmission of long genealogies, but also religious beliefs and a mythology of gods, such as Oro, a god of the Polynesian pantheon. Traditional tales were often used to transmit the beliefs of the society, but also its values. Here is an example of a traditional folk tale. The coconut tree is one of the most common trees in Tahiti and her islands. The Polynesians have a legend about its creation. It is the legend of Hina and the coconut tree. A long time ago there was a young girl called Hina. Everyone heard of her exceptional beauty. Her skin was as smooth as mango or papaya fruit, and always smelled like monoi oil. Her silky hair was extremely long, and shone with the reflections of the sun rays. By the time she turned 16, she was promised to marry the Prince of Eels. By this marriage her father intended to bring together the people of the oceans and the rivers, and the people of the earth. But when she met her suitor the eel, Hina got frightened by his physical appearance. He had a gigantic body and an enormous head. So Hina ran away and took refuge in the house of the fishing god called Hero. Hero was impressed by the beauty of Hina and was moved by her story. So he took one piece of the young woman's hair and used it to fish the approaching eel. When he caught him, Hero cut up the Prince of Eels in pieces, wrapped his head in a basket made of leaves, and gave it to Hina for her to keep. But before dying, the eel had said to Hina, "You refused to love me because I don't have the beauty of a human prince, but my love for you is eternal. You may hate me now, Hina, but one day you will kiss me with gratefulness." Hero entrusted the head of the eel to Hina and said, "Hina, girl of beauty, you can return to your family now, but as soon as you get there, you must destroy this head. And be careful," he warned her. "Throughout the journey you must absolutely not put it on the ground, because if you do so, then the curse of the eel will come true." On her way back, the beautiful young woman and her followers were tired, and so they decided to take a bath in the river, forgetting the warning of Hero. So Hina put the eel's head down, but no sooner had it touched the ground than it penetrated the earth, and it started to grow higher and higher until it became a large tree. It had a long trunk like an immense eel, and its foliage looked like hair stretching around. The coconut tree had just been born. Hina was therefore condemned by the gods to remain close to this river because the tree had become taboo. Life went on until one day a terrible drought struck the lands. Of all the trees growing in the island, only the coconut resisted the sun. In the end, and in spite of the gods' prohibition to touch this tree, some men climbed the tree, picked its fruit, and tasted it. It was full of a clear, sweet, and nutritive water. The man gave the fruit to Hina for her to drink because she was extremely weak. So Hina delicately put her lips onto the coconut fruit and quenched her thirst with the coconut water. But when she had drunk the whole juice, Hina noticed something strange. She saw that the coconut fruit was marked with 3 dark spots. They were laid out like 2 little eyes and a mouth. So she understood that by drinking that water, she had not only saved her life, but she had also kissed the Prince of Eels, making his prophecy come true. From that moment, the coconut tree has been called the Tree of Life, because all parts of it can be used in many ways and make people's everyday life easier and more pleasant.